Opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Hello, this is Dr. Bass, and you're listening to Stairway to Heaven. And my guest is today is the Reverend KAISER Jones from Refuge Baptist Church. Stairway to Heaven is brought to you by Refuge Baptist Church in Keys and Harmony. So, Reverend Jones, are you there?
I am.
All right. Would you tell me? I'm gonna put you on the air. Put you on. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? Tell my audience a little bit about yourself. Now you got started.
Well, listen, I've been preaching for better than 55 years. I started preaching when I was 16 in the KAISER church in Pennsylvania. And in 1979, I was called to the Mount Olivet Baptist Church in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, where I pastored there for 7 years. And then I was called to the Union Baptist Church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in 1985, and I pastored there for 2.5 years. And from there I was called to the Shady Grove Baptist Church in Greenville, South Carolina, and I pastored there for 2 years. And then I was called to the Macedonia Baptist Church in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where I pastored for a little better than 7 years. And then in 1997, I was called to the Refuge Missionary Baptist Church here in Columbus, where I've served for almost 24 years.
That is beautiful. That is. And would you like to tell my audience what your topic for today is?
God can turn it around.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you take it from there. Go ahead.
All right. For those that are listening, I'd like to call your attention to the 10th chapter of the book of St. Mark, and particularly verses 46 down through and including verse number 52, where it says, "And they came to Jericho. And as he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And many charged him that he should hold his peace. But the record declares he cried the more a great deal, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. And they called the blind man, saying unto him, Be of good comfort, rise, he calleth thee. And verse 50 says, And he, casting away his garment, rose and came to Jesus. And Jesus answered and said unto him, What wilt thou that I should do unto thee? The blind man said unto him, Lord, that I might receive my sight. Verse 52, And Jesus said unto him, Go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus in the way. Jesus was completing his 3.5-year ministry. And prior to going into Jerusalem for the last time, the record suggests that he enters into Jericho, a cursed city. But what I like about Jesus is that wherever Jesus shows up, and whenever Jesus shows up, he reverses the curse. And of course, we do know he never went anywhere without a purpose, without a mission, without accomplishing a task. And there in Jericho, he deals with the tax collector, Zacchaeus, and converts him. And our text opens up by saying, And as they came out of Jericho with his disciple and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. This opening section of this particular passage of scripture gives a bio of this blind individual. It says 3 things. 1, physiological problem. He was begging. That's a sociological problem. And he was by the wayside, which was an eschatological problem dealing with life and death. And then it also gives his parental heritage. It says that he was the son of Timaeus. And I couldn't figure that out, my brothers and sisters, until I did my own investigation. And I found out that not only was Bartimaeus blind, but he was the son of a blind father, which suggests that every man, woman, boy, and girl was born in blindness. When we came into this world, we was blinded by sin and so many elements that go along with sin. But here, Jesus finds this blind man. And the blind man, when he realized that it was Jesus that was about to pass him by, the record says, and when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. The word heard in this text suggests to give consideration to what has already been said or done. And this blind man evidently had heard about Jesus and had decided that if Jesus came anywhere close to where he was going to make sure that first of all, he was going to do whatever he needed to do to acquire his attention. I am, and it's my contention, and I contend, that if you want Jesus to do anything for you and turn your situation around, you've got to do whatever you need to do to acquire his attention. Many of us never get what we need from Jesus because we don't go the limits to acquire his attention. This blind man began to cry out and say, whatever you do, Jesus, please have mercy on me. He cries in such a way that the people who are around him, including his disciples, try to suggest to him that he ought to hold his peace. And in my pastorate, in my years of preaching, I have found out that a lot of times people don't get what they need because there are too many folk around them trying to hold and make them hold their peace. But I am a living witness that if you are in need of anything from Jesus, you can't worry about folk that are around you. You've got to do whatever you need to do in order to get and to acquire his attention. The record says that he cried the more a great deal, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. The first thing he did was he acquired his attention. And the second thing he did, acknowledged his authority. Ladies and gentlemen, not only must we acquire his attention, but we must also acknowledge his authority. We've got to understand who he is and what he's able to do. Don't forget that Jesus, the God we serve, is omniscient. In other words, he's all-knowing. He knew what this blind man needed even before he opened his mouth. And secondly, Jesus is omnipotent. In other words, he's all-powerful. There's nothing that Jesus cannot do. And even in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of COVID-19 and coronavirus and anything else that you may be going through, if you can only acquire his attention and then acknowledge his authority, that he is in charge of everything that goes on in this world, that then and only then is he able to meet your need. And then thirdly, he's omnipresent. Not only is he all-knowing, not only is he all-powerful, but he's everywhere at the same time. And what that simply means is that while he's handling my situation, he can also be wherever you are to handle your situation. That's what I love about the God I serve. He's everywhere at the same time. My God, whatever the condition, whatever the problem, whatever the situation, he can turn it around. The record says he cried the more a great deal. Sometimes you got to go beyond the limit. You got to go beyond people who are trying to hold you back. You got to go beyond whatever condition, whatever situation, whatever problem in order to get the Lord's attention. The record says, because he was so forceful, read the text. The record says that Jesus stood still. In other words, this blind man had cried so forcefully that it got the attention of Jesus. And not only that, he also acknowledged the authority of Jesus. And because of those two things, the record says Jesus stood still. And all of the people that were around him, Jesus commanded this blind man to be called. And the record says they called the blind man. In other words, Jesus hears you. Jesus understands your predicament. Be of good comfort. Rise, he calleth thee. And what I love about the furtherance of this text, it says, he casting away his garment. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want God to handle whatever you may be going through, not only must you acquire his attention, not only must you acknowledge his authority, but you've got to associate with his agenda. Most folks, they want to do their own thing and still want Jesus to handle their predicament. But if you want Jesus to do what is necessary for you, for those that may be around you, your family, your economic situation, your health, whatever it may be that you're going through, you've got to associate with his agenda. He casting away his garment meant that anything that was going to hinder me, anything that was going to stop me from getting what I need from Jesus, I'm getting rid of it right now. And that's the problem with too many people. We want to hold on to certain things, and at the same time, we want Jesus to respond to our need.
Reverend Jones,
but if you,
let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Why do people like to hold on to things that they shouldn't be and still trust God? Would you tell me that?
Because it has become a part of them for so long. They feel that they just cannot survive without that thing that they have been attached to for so long. In other words, I'm sick. I need to be healed. But at the same time, and I believe Jesus can do it, but at the same time, I can't let go of these things that have been a part of me for so long. I can't let go of that relationship. I can't let go of that bottle. I can't let go of those drugs. I can't let go of the street. But at the same time, they understand that Jesus is all powerful, but because they have been attached to things for such a long period of time, they feel that they just cannot let go of those things that have become part and parcel of who they are. And a lot of times people will say, my brother, that I'm going to turn around, I'm going to let it go, I'm going to. But here's the thing: when they're alone, when they're not within the company of those who are attached to Jesus, Satan begins to work on them and say, you can't make it without this. And that's the reason why so many folk respond and can't let loose of the vices that continue to hold them in bondage.
All right, hold it right there.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Hold them in bondage.
Hold it right there. For those who are listening, and if you'd like to get a little message, want to make a question, you may call this number at 614-914-5001. That's 614-927-2013. Reverend Jones, continue, please.
Notice in the passage of Scripture where it says, he casting away his garment. In other words, in order to follow Jesus, and in order for Jesus to do the task completely in your life, in my life, we've got to cast away. That means throw it out of our line of eyesight. Get rid of it. Walk away from it. Make sure that it's nowhere around us. Because the more those things are around us, the more they pull and beckon for us to pick up our old habits. That's the problem. You must cast those bad habits and things that have been holding you in bondage. You've got to cast it away. And that's why it says right there in that text, he casting away his garment rose and came to Jesus. And then you have to acknowledge your problem. Because Jesus said, what wilt thou that I should do unto thee? Many of us fail to verbalize and acknowledge what is holding us, what has us in bondage, what has us in captivity. Jesus can't release you from it until you acknowledge that you've got a problem. And that's the sad but true commentary on a lot of us. We will not acknowledge that we've got a problem. So what we do is we try to fool ourselves. Oh, we'll go to church. Oh, we'll sing Zion's song. But we will never acknowledge that there is something that has us in bondage. We will never acknowledge and ask God to take it away from us. Jesus asked the blind man, even though he already knew. Jesus already knows. I told you. He knows everything. He's all-knowing. He's omniscient. But if you want Jesus to do something for you, you've got to acknowledge, I've got a condition. I've got something that's pulling on me. I've got something that's eating at me. And Jesus, I need your help to get rid of it. And that's the problem. We never, ever acknowledge and ask Jesus to release us of that which is plaguing and condemning us. He says, Lord, that I might receive my sight. God can turn it around, but there are some things that we've got to do in order for God to turn it around. We can't expect God to do everything for us. There are some things you've got to meet God halfway at least. You've got to meet him part of the way. And if you do that's why the Revelation text, he says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man opens the door, I will come in and sup with him, there are certain things that we have to do. And when he acknowledged and said that I might receive my sight, Jesus said something powerful. He said, go thy way, thy faith, F-A-I-T-H, thy faith have made thee whole. Now faith, Hebrews 11:1, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith, it is impossible to please him. So the fact remains that we've got to have enough faith to release our problem into the hands of Jesus Christ, but at least we've got to acknowledge that we've got the problem and then have faith enough to believe that Jesus can handle whatever we're going through. That's important. Jesus said, go thy way, thy faith have made thee whole. And then the very next word, and this is huge, it says, immediately he received his sight. Not after a while, not next week, not next month, but immediately he received his sight. And then this is huge. Out there in radio land, and anyone that may have a question, this is huge. It says, and he followed Jesus in the way. In order for Jesus to do anything for us, we've got to make sure that we involve ourselves in the complete healing and recovery package that Jesus has for us. You've got to acknowledge his authority. You've got to acquire his attention, acknowledge his authority, and then you've got to associate with his agenda. Our agenda has to be cast aside, cast away, in order for Jesus to completely do anything for us. Those three things: acknowledge, acquire, and associate. And if we do those three things, then Jesus is able to handle our situation and turn it around. Whatever your sickness, your illness, no matter what the doctor has said, your surgeon has said, no matter what the prognosis is, no matter what your family is going through, no matter what your economic situation may be, when you acknowledge what you're going through, then Jesus in turn is able to step in and handle and alleviate and raise us up out of our situation. That's huge. I go to Jesus because I believe he can handle it, and I have enough faith to believe that he can handle it. Questions?
Okay, Reverend Jones, that's beautiful. We got a few minutes before we switch over to the other side of the show. You'd like to give any shout outs, anything before we switch to the other side?
Listen, I'm telling everybody, no matter what is going on in this world, no matter the pandemic, no matter the economic situation, no matter what your own personal situation may be, Jesus is still available. He hasn't gone anywhere, and he's still available to take care of us individually. This is what I love about him. And then he's also available to take care of us collectively. Turn it over to Jesus. Don't worry about anything. Give it to him and let Jesus handle it. And I tell you, this has always been my philosophy. Why should I walk the floor all night? When I give it to Jesus, ain't no sense of both of us staying up. Give it to Jesus.
Okay.
Go to bed and let him handle it, and he will.
All right. Okay. Reverend Jones, thank you. And I can give do you have anybody to shout out? You like to holler to or say anything to?
No, sir. No, sir. I will tell you this, and I appreciate the opportunity. I rushed in from work. I'm still in my car.
Oh, wow.
I haven't even been in. I'm still in my car, and that's the reason why we may be delivering ourselves the way we are, is because I'm still in my work clothes. I beat it home from work, but I'm still in my car. I wasn't able to even get out of my car as it relates to the time. I'm in my driveway.
Okay. Well, next time, hopefully, we can get you in the studio. You do a little more.
I would love to. I would love to. And to you, Brother Claude, and to your wife, and to everyone else there at the station, be encouraged. Hold on to God's unchanging hand, and regardless of what we may be going through right now, tomorrow is a better day.
Okay.
I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow.
All right. Well, as I said before, if y'all like this sermon and you'd like some of the music, you can call us. It's 614-914-5001 or 614-2927-2013. And I'd like to shout out to my co-workers out there at St. Anne's Lab. We do a lot of work. They're out there fighting the coronavirus. They're trying to find cause, and they're working with the specimens every day to find out some way to cure it. So I'm asking you for blessings for them as they work. And this is Dr. Bass Claude Smith for Stairway to Heaven. And this is to listen to. And like I say, Stairway to Heaven is brought to you by the Refuge Baptist Church with the pastor, KAISER Jones, pastor, and the Keys of Harmony.
God bless you, and may God keep you.
Okay. Thank you. As I said before, it was great to have him on the air. And like I'm going to tell you this again, the Keys of Harmony are still together. We still have one member still sick, so we're waiting on that come through. I got to call and see. I haven't called and talked to him yet, but I'm going to have him one of these days, have him call in and talk on the station, and we can talk then. The people out in Mount Carmel Lab out there on Schrock Road, give you a shout out. I'll tell you one young lady, she's sick. She's a good friend of mine, and she be there every morning, and I'm asking prayers for her and her family and everyone else out there at that lab. And even to my friend Mike, who works in the warehouse, to give him a shout out for my wife and my family and my sister. And like I said, today is my daughter's birthday. Maggie Smith is her birthday. And to my sister Margie Williams, who's in OSU Hospital, and I'm asking for prayers for her. Like I say, Stairway to Heaven has come a long way, and I'm looking forward to great things. So soon we get things together, we will get the music back on. I'm working on that now, so we can get some music in between. So this is Dr. Bass for my YouTube friends and fans. Hopefully we can get some things. Things will be coming. And I'll see you next time.